When I was 12 years old, all the kids had heroes. Most had baseball heroes, but my hero was Sammy Terry. He was an icon on TV. Channel 4, a TV show called Nightmare Theater, where he was the host. I don't know if it was his hooded robes that he wore or his lame humor, but I really, really thought he was the man that I would like to be like. And whenever his show came on, I sat glued to the tube, watching it over and over. Even years later, when I was 22, I was still watching Sammy Terry. In fact, by this time, he had asked people to send in fan letters so he could read them on air. Naturally, I wrote him a fan letter. Weeks went by. Nothing happened. It was pretty much like when I wrote Santa Claus a letter when I was a kid, and I hoped to hear it, but nothing happened then. So one night, I was getting ready to go to work, and I worked the graveyard shift. Sammy Terry started saying some familiar words. It was my letter. I realized he was reading my letter. So I went over to the TV, turned it up a little bit, and listened. Now this letter went into great detail about the gory thing that I would do to him and Spider George to bring about his demise. And at the close of the letter, the camera zoomed in as Sammy Terry read my name in big, bold letters. Kenneth Stephen Baker, Esquire. Well, this was my little claim to fame. It was probably when my son was old enough to go out trick-or-treating. I was talking to my sister, who had moved into this neighborhood. She casually mentioned that she had lived down the street from Sammy Terry, and would I like to take Brian to go there for trick-or-treat. I almost dropped the phone. Of course I would. The night came. It was a balmy, warm night. My brother-in-law had just returned from a hunting trip. He had some dead carcasses out in the trash can, and they had the stench of death that filled the night. But I didn't care. All I wanted to do was go to Sammy's house. So right off, we went there. Knocked on the door. A kindly, older lady answered. I was expecting the Bride of Frankenstein, to be truthful. She invited us in and said that Sammy was out doing special appearances. But his daughter was there, and she'd been on his show from time to time. She asked if we'd like to go to the basement to see some of the props that they use on the TV show. On the way down to the basement, I saw vampires and ghouls and snarling werewolves. Okay, maybe not. But it was an awesome experience. The only thing was, I was looking for the famed coffin that Sammy would always rise from every start of the show. I thought maybe I could lie down in one. But it wasn't there. He probably had it on special appearances. And really, in a couple years later, my son and I actually got to see Sammy Terry in person. He did an appearance at a place called the Music Palace, about a mile away from my house. We went to watch him. Quite an experience. I don't know who was more the kid that day, me or my son. And after the show, I went up and told Sammy what a fan I was. I even brought up the letter. He extended his claw-like hand and merely laughed, his famous laugh. Well, it was about a couple years later, about the same time of the year. I was going over to my sister's house and driving my truck when a heavy fog had rolled in. And out of nowhere, a shadowy figure was riding towards me on his bike in the road. I had to swerve in order to miss him. But I looked over, and I was terrified. It was Sammy Terry. You don't forget that big cheesy smile. And he had a hood on but no makeup. But it's truly Sammy Terry. I shuddered at the thought. I had almost killed my hero. Something I alluded to in that letter so many years ago. But I didn't. Sammy Terry, a.k.a. Robert Carter, is 77. He still makes special appearances, and you can catch them on YouTube. Recently I was on Facebook, looking at some of my sister's friends. I noticed that Sammy Terry was one of them, so I thought, why not see if he'd be my friend? Of course, I added a footnote in the message about the letter. Naturally, I don't learn. Well, Sammy Terry didn't respond, didn't make me his friend. Sometimes old heroes simply fade away.